Hi, I'm Francis,
And I'm Sue.
and today we want to share with you how we dealt with the loss of a baby. And we've been married for 52 years. We have 6 children and 13 grandchildren. About 5 months after we had gotten married, we found ourselves in the hospital in a ward all alone, just the two of us. The nurses were just ignoring us. We were losing our first child. And we delivered him. And it's amazing that after more than 52 years, it still hurts. And what we've discovered that it never hurts less. It just hurts less often. And so we drew to each other for support. We cried together. We prayed together.
And you still do, don't you?
And we still do. Yeah, it's amazing. And but we know that we have an advocate in heaven.
Tommy,
Tommy, yep,
your firstborn.
that was our firstborn, Tommy. And he has helped us, we know, over the years, because we used to talk with him. And he'd help us out in situations.
Yeah.
It was beautiful to have that relationship. So this is a child that was born in the second trimester.
So he was. Tell me about the birth, because you actually delivered.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Well, like I said, we were by ourselves in the ward, and it was almost a spontaneous delivery.
Mm-hmm.
And he just came out, and he was lying there on the bed, and we baptized him right there on the spot
Mm-hmm.
with a pitcher from a water pitcher from the hospital.
Yeah.
And I picked him up and held him, and Sue held him.
Yeah.
And
You shared with me that he was perfectly formed.
he, from all external viewpoints, he was perfectly formed, but obviously at that age, he was not old enough to, his lungs were not well formed, or they're probably about that age.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was tough. And we had to grieve together, and we cried together, and we cried separately, and we had to trust that God knew what was going on, and that he had his plan, and we had to accept his plan. And sometimes to accept his plan, it hurts. But I think it helped us come closer together, to grieve together, to cry together, and to mourn the loss of Tommy.
Yeah.
So the thing that we finally realized, that it wasn't really our fault. We didn't do anything wrong. We didn't do anything to cause this to happen. It was just one of those incidences that happen in lots of folks' lives. And it's okay if you cry about it. And we can still cry about it
Yeah.
decades later. But come to each other in support and realize that it's not because of you. It's not because you're faulty. It's because something physically happened that this baby couldn't mature. And that doesn't mean if you're wanting a child that you should stop trying. Get whatever good help you can get. If you go to an endocrinologist or someone who can help you with fertility cycles, and take advantage of all the knowledge that's out here now that wasn't out there when we were going through all of this. And trust in God and praise him, and even in the loss, because now we already have one in heaven.
I think it's really beautiful that you gave him a name, Thomas Aquinas. What was it that made you choose that name?
Well, Thomas Aquinas was a brilliant scholar, and I guess we kind of had hopes that maybe he would be a brilliant scholar, but those dreams were lost. But that's part of the grieving period.
But you do have kids who are brilliant scholars.
Yes, we do. We've been very blessed with 5 more.
Yeah.
Each one very smart. very, very hardworking.
When we've talked, you've shared that at the time, losing a baby wasn't really talked about publicly. So there wasn't really a support system there for you.
That's true. There wasn't. I mean, we were basically on our own.
We had each other.
We had each other. That was it. Even the nurses were kind of rude. We had each other and God. And even the nurses were kind of rude, like, oh, this is just an ordinary thing, and it happens all the time. It's no big deal. And so they were pretty cold-hearted about the whole thing. We were almost an inconvenience in the hospital, it appeared to us.
Wow.
So,
So-
yeah, it hurts. And so when you know of someone who this has happened to and the subject comes up, don't be afraid to comfort them and encourage them and to pray with them for the strength to be able to accept what has happened.
So you've spent a lot of time in prayer for each other over this topic. And I know that you are willing, as a couple who has lost a baby, you're willing to pray for other couples in the same situation.
Right.
So,
So if you will send us an email to Francis&Sue on 52@gmail.com, we would be willing and more than honored to pray for you. God bless y'all.
thank you, Mom and Dad. I love you.
Love you too. Bye-bye.